You're still here. And that says everything. Most people who start something like this, who commit to really understanding how power works, they drop off somewhere around part 2. They get uncomfortable. They get busy. They tell themselves they'll come back later. They don't. Let's go. Law 31. Control the options. Get others to play with the cards you deal. Here is one of the most sophisticated forms of control that exists, and almost nobody sees it happening when it's being used on them. Most people think that having choices means having freedom. If someone gives you 3 options, you get to pick. You're in control. You made the decision. Except who decided what the 3 options were? Because the person who defines the choices is never actually giving you freedom. They're giving you the illusion of freedom while maintaining complete control over every possible outcome. Think about every time in your life someone has come to you with options already prepared, already narrowed, already framed in a particular way, and you chose between them feeling like you were in control. You weren't. They were. The entire time. The powerful person understands this and uses it deliberately. Not by giving people no choice. That creates resistance. But by giving people choices that all lead to outcomes that serve your interests. You feel heard. You feel respected. You feel like you made the decision. And the person who set up the options got exactly what they wanted, through your own hand. Learn to define the choices before anyone else does, because whoever controls the options controls the outcome, regardless of who makes the final pick. Law 32. Play to people's fantasies. The truth is often too bitter. People do not want the truth as much as they say they do. They want the version of truth that confirms what they already believe, that promises what they already hope for, that paints the future in colors they already find beautiful. This is not weakness. This is human nature operating exactly as it always has. And the most influential people in history, across every domain, every era, every culture, were not necessarily the most accurate. They were the ones who most powerfully understood what people wanted to believe and gave them permission to believe it. This does not mean lying. It does not mean promising what you cannot deliver. It means understanding that communication is not about transferring information. It is about creating feelings. And the feelings people most want to have, hope, possibility, the sense that something better is coming, are more powerful motivators than any cold, accurate description of current reality. When you speak to people's dreams rather than their doubts, when you paint a picture of what could be rather than cataloging what is, you tap into something deep and ancient in human psychology. People will follow the person who makes them feel possibility over the person who gives them accurate analysis every single time. Learn to speak to what people want to become, not just what they currently are. That is where real influence lives. Law 33. Discover each man's thumbscrew. Find the weakness that controls every person you will ever encounter has something that drives them more than anything else. A need, a fear, a desire so fundamental that it shapes every decision they make, whether they realize it or not. Some people are driven by the need to be seen as intelligent, some by the terror of being disrespected, some by a hunger for recognition they never received early in life, some by financial insecurity that no amount of money ever fully quiets, some by loneliness dressed up as ambition. The person who identifies what truly drives someone, what they cannot help wanting, what they cannot help fearing, holds a key to that person's behavior that is extraordinarily powerful. Not to manipulate cruelly, but to understand completely. To know what to offer, what to appeal to, what to avoid.
to understand why they make the decisions they make in ways that they themselves often cannot articulate. People show you their thumbscrews constantly, in what they brag about, in what makes them visibly anxious, in what they cannot stop talking about, in what they react to disproportionately. Pay attention, file everything, because understanding what someone truly wants or truly fears gives you insight into their behavior that nothing else provides. And insight into behavior is the foundation of every form of lasting influence. Law 34. Be royal in your own fashion. Act like a king to be treated like one. Here's a truth that sounds simple and is actually one of the hardest things to consistently implement. People treat you exactly the way you signal you expect to be treated. Not the way you deserve, not the way your accomplishments merit. The way you signal through your posture, your tone, your response to disrespect, your own sense of what you're worth that you expect.
The person who apologizes constantly signals that they expect to need forgiveness. The person who accepts small disrespects without response signals that small disrespects are acceptable. The person who undervalues their own time signals that their time is not particularly valuable. And people, without even thinking about it, consciously adjust how they treat you based on exactly these signals. The powerful person sets a different standard. They carry themselves as if they are worth exactly the treatment they want to receive, not arrogantly, not aggressively, but with the quiet, unshakable certainty of someone who knows their own value and has simply stopped accepting anything less. And what happens when you consistently project that standard? People adjust. Not all of them, not immediately. But over time, the environment shapes itself around the signal you're sending. Because people are always looking for social cues about how to behave. And you get to be one of those cues. Decide what treatment you expect. Project that standard consistently. And watch the world begin to deliver it. Law 35. Master the art of timing. Never seem to be in a hurry. The person who is always in a hurry is the person who is always slightly behind. And slightly behind means always reacting, always catching up, always operating in the compressed space of too little time, where decisions get made poorly and opportunities get missed because there wasn't enough room to see them clearly. The powerful person operates differently. They understand that time is not just a resource, it is a weapon. And the person who controls their relationship with time controls an enormous amount about how every situation unfolds. When you are unhurried, when you can afford to wait, to observe, to let situations develop before committing, you see things that the hurried person misses. You make decisions the panicked person cannot make. You project a confidence that comes from knowing that you have enough time to get this right. Machiavelli understood timing as one of the most critical elements of any successful exercise of power. Not just doing the right thing, but doing the right thing at precisely the right moment. Too early, and the conditions are not ready. Too late, and the opportunity has passed. Exactly right, and everything falls into place with a precision that looks like genius, but is actually patience. Slow down deliberately. Not because you are lazy, because unhurried people see more, decide better, and project a calm authority that rushed people can never achieve. Time your moves, let others rush, and watch how much clearer everything becomes when you stop being in a hurry to get there. Law 36. Disdain things you cannot have. Ignoring them is the best revenge. Here is a law that sounds like it is about things, but it is actually about psychology. When you visibly want something you cannot have when you chase it, when you talk about it, When you let your frustration at not having it become obvious, you do two things simultaneously. You give the thing power over your emotional state, and you signal to everyone around you exactly where your desire and your vulnerability live. Neither of those things serves you. The powerful person responds to what they cannot have with something that looks almost like indifference. Not performed indifference, genuine redirection. They withdraw their attention from what is unavailable and invest it entirely in what is possible and accessible. And something interesting happens when you genuinely stop pursuing what you cannot have. It sometimes starts pursuing you, because desire follows scarcity. And the moment you stop being the one who wants, you become the one who is wanted. But even when it doesn't, even when what you couldn't have simply remains unavailable, you have protected something precious. Your emotional equilibrium. Your image of someone who is not controlled by circumstances outside their power. Stop chasing what ignores you. Stop wanting what rejects you. Redirect that energy entirely toward what you can build, what you can earn, what you can actually reach. That redirection is not defeat. It is the most powerful response available. Law 37. Create compelling spectacles, striking imagery and symbols. Here is something that sophisticated people often get wrong about influence. They believe that substance is enough, that good ideas speak for themselves, that clear, logical arguments are what move people. They are partially right, and completely wrong about what actually creates lasting influence. Because human beings do not experience the world primarily through analysis. They experience it through image, through symbol, through the visceral, immediate impact of things that can be seen, felt, and remembered without requiring explanation. The most enduring exercises of power throughout history have almost always been accompanied by extraordinary visual and symbolic language. Grand ceremonies, powerful imagery, symbols that
communicate in a single glance what paragraphs of text cannot convey. This is not manipulation. It is communication in the language that human psychology actually speaks fluently. In your own environment, whatever scale you operate at, understanding the power of image and symbol means understanding that how something looks often matters as much as what it actually is. That the visual story you tell about yourself and your work shapes how people understand and remember both. Create moments that are worth seeing. Frame your work in images that communicate its value before anyone reads a word of explanation. Let the symbolic language of what you do speak powerfully before your literal words need to. Because the image people carry in their minds is the reality they act from. Make that image count. Law 38. Think as you like, but behave like others. Blend in strategically. One of the most expensive mistakes that intelligent people make is feeling compelled to share exactly how differently they think from the people around them. Their unconventional beliefs, their contrarian views, their private conclusions about how things actually work versus how most people believe they work. And every time they do, they pay a social cost. Because the majority of people in any environment are not looking for their fundamental assumptions to be challenged. They are looking for confirmation, for belonging, for the comfortable signal that the person in front of them sees the world roughly the way they do. When you visibly think too differently, when you make your unconventional perspective too obvious, you trigger defensiveness, suspicion, and exclusion. Not because people are closed-minded, because difference feels threatening at a level deeper than conscious thought. The powerful person has solved this problem elegantly. They think whatever they actually think, with complete freedom and no apology. And they present, in social situations, a version of themselves that is sufficiently aligned with the expectations of their environment to move through it without unnecessary friction. This is not hypocrisy. It is the recognition that your most powerful thinking needs the space to develop, and that space is protected by not making every social interaction a debate about your most unconventional conclusions. Think freely, move strategically. Save your real perspective for those rare moments and rare people where it will be genuinely received. Law 39. Stir up waters to catch fish. Use controlled chaos. Stable environments favor the established. The person who already holds power in a calm, predictable situation has every structural advantage. They know the terrain. They have the relationships. They have the resources. They have the history. In stability, the powerful stay powerful. But in disruption, everything gets reshuffled. Old advantages become liabilities. New capabilities become decisive. The person who understands what is actually happening in a chaotic moment has an extraordinary advantage over those who are simply confused and destabilized by the chaos. This is why the most dramatic reversals of power throughout history almost always happen during periods of instability. Crises, upheavals, moments when the old order is temporarily suspended and everything is in motion. The powerful person understands this, and sometimes, not always, but sometimes, deliberately introduces controlled disruption into stable situations that are not serving their interests. Not destructive chaos, strategic motion. Enough to break the comfortable patterns that keep certain people in positions they no longer merit, and certain opportunities permanently out of reach. When everything is moving, when the environment is in flux, the person who maintains their composure and clarity while others are reacting sees opportunities that stability would never have revealed. Learn to be comfortable in disruption. Learn to see it as possibility rather than threat. And occasionally, when the situation calls for it, learn to be the one who starts the motion. Law 40. Despise the free lunch. There is no such thing. Here is the final law of this chapter, and it is one that will protect you from one of the most consistent sources of destruction that exists. Anything that arrives without cost Any offer that seems to require nothing from you, any gift that appears to come with no strings, any opportunity that looks completely free is almost never actually free. It is either a trap with the trigger mechanism hidden from view, or it creates an obligation that will be called in at a moment and in a manner of the giver's choosing. Or it makes you dependent in ways that will cost you far more than whatever the gift was worth. The most consistently powerful people in history have understood this with almost visceral clarity. They pay for what they get. They earn what they have. Not because paying is noble, but because paying is safe. Because what you pay for is yours. What you receive for free belongs, in some invisible but real sense, to whoever gave it. This extends beyond money. The favor that costs you nothing will cost you something. The opportunity handed to you without effort will come with conditions. The alliance that requires no investment from you is an alliance that can be withdrawn without warning. Build what you have through your own effort and your own resources wherever possible. When you must accept help, understand clearly what it will cost and decide deliberately whether that cost is worth paying. Because the world will always offer you the free lunch, and the price of accepting it is almost always higher than whatever you think you saved. 40 laws down. 40. Think about what you now understand that you did not understand before you started this series. You understand why certain people always seem to win, why your effort alone was never enough, why good intentions without strategic intelligence get punished, why the game operates the way it does, and why most people spend their entire lives playing it without ever truly seeing it. 40 laws. 40 pieces of a complete picture of how power moves between human beings. And there are 8 left. The final 8 laws, laws 41 to 48, are coming in the next video. And they are the ones that tie everything together. The ones that complete the picture. The ones that, after you hear them, you will look back at everything in this series differently. The final chapter is almost here. Subscribe, turn the bell on, and be ready. Because when it drops, you will have the complete picture. And with the complete picture, everything changes.